there's only 2 of us here.
We're taking over the video notes.
Yep, surprise. Woo! No, just kidding. No, Miss Hodges and Miss Todrick are at a meeting, so we thought we would just record the intro without them. I'm so sorry if you really missed them, but you get to see our lovely faces.
Yeah.
So, whatever. Okay, so here we are in Chapter 9, Ancient India, and we're going to be talking about Buddhism and Jainism today. And remember, it matters because millions of people around the world today follow the beliefs of religions that began all the way back in ancient India. So, prepare yourself, grab some candy because we know you guys got some, and let's jump right in. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, so sometime around 500 BC, some of the people in the ancient Indian civilization were unhappy with many aspects of the Hindu religion. Now, these people wanted a more simple faith, so they decided to leave their home in search of a more spiritual way of life. In their search for this spiritual faith, these people trained their minds to focus and think in positive ways, which we now know as meditation. Now, one of these teachers that was known for this way of life, his name was Siddhartha Gautama. He was actually a Raja, or a prince, we know that from our word wall, right? That disagreed with the caste system and thought it caused suffering. Now, in his journey, he wanted to find a cure for suffering, so he gave up his royal life and spent time traveling and meditating to find that more spiritual way. On his travels, he became known as Buddha, or the Enlightened One. Now, today, we call this way of thinking Buddhism.
The Buddha's ideas were not new to India. He believed in some of the Hindu ideas and changed others. The Buddha felt that one reason people suffered in life was that they cared too much about the wrong things. These things included fame, money, and personal possessions like cars and houses. He then taught his followers the 4 noble truths. These are: life is full of suffering. The cause of suffering is being selfish or selfishness. The way to end suffering is to stop desiring things, and to stop desire by following the righteous path, which leads you to Miss Todrick's slide. Bye.
So when Miss Tickle talked about these 4 noble truths, these 4 big truths of life, that the Buddha, or Siddhartha Gautama, decided that it's important for all people to accept. Remember that the 4th one is the way that we can stop desire is by following the righteous or the Eightfold Path. We call it the righteous path because it's the right way to do it. And the other name for it is our Eightfold Path, or the Noble Eightfold Path, because there's 8 steps that we need to follow. Now, you'll notice that there's nothing for you to fill in on the graphic that has the wheel that looks like this on your notes. But there are a couple things that we're going to be doing with it, so don't skip over this section. This is really important, okay? This is the way that the Buddha said. Pardon me, I know, I've got these crazy hiccups today, so humor me, guys. I know, hear this? I was not lying. Miss Lewis is laughing at me in the background. Nonsense. Anyways, okay, these are the steps that the Buddha said that a person should take in order to get to nirvana and to stop suffering, okay? So the first one is the right view. And that's just pretty easy for a Buddha. That's just accepting the 4 noble truths, that life is full of suffering, suffering is caused by selfishness, and that we can stop suffering by stopping desire. And the way we can stop desire is by following this path, okay? The right intention means that we live our life with the goal of being the best we can, and by making sure that we are working our hardest. The Buddha didn't expect people to be perfect, but he did expect that our intentions and our goals are in the right line. Right speech, this is really similar to what you might have had us say or your parents say. Right speech means that when we talk to other people, we are thoughtful, we use kind speech, we don't lie or slander people or gossip, okay? And so you've probably seen this poster, the Think poster. And the Buddha, I think, would have really liked this poster because this kind of ties in what right speech is. Is it true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and is it kind? All of those are good questions to ask yourself when you're thinking about right speech. Right action. When it comes down to it, do we make the right choices in life? And when we're faced with two options, do we choose the right option even though it might be harder? Right livelihood. The Buddha said it's important for us to choose jobs that don't bring suffering to other people. And so he would say something like being a person who repossesses cars, or somebody who is a jailer or something like that may not be a right livelihood because it could cause harm to somebody else. The Buddha also said that right effort is important, okay? That even if we're not perfect, we try our best. He also says right concentration, and this comes down to really focusing your mind, what Ms. Lewis said about meditating and taking the time out of your day to refocus and to calm your mind and your spirit and to see if where your brain is where it should be. Now that can be pretty tricky. It's sometimes kind of hard to shut out all the negative thoughts and really stay positive. But the Buddha said that this would be a really important thing to do. The last is right mindfulness. Every time making sure that when you address a situation, you are always keeping the Eightfold Step or the Eightfold Path in mind. Now, what I would like for you to do while you're looking at this graphic organizer is make two choices. I want you to circle the step that for you seems the easiest. And then I want you to put a square around the step that you think is the hardest. So for me, right livelihood, that's pretty easy. I'm going to circle that. I feel like my job is really important to making sure people don't suffer, but do even better. However, right concentration, that's really hard for me. I have a hard time kind of shutting out negative thoughts or just kind of shutting out all the noise of the day and really clearing my mind. Now for you, right speech might be an easier one, or right mindfulness. But this is going to be personal and different, so each person's going to have a different answer on this one, okay? So as we move forward, just really reflect on your personal thoughts on this and see kind of where you fall on. Speaking of right concentration, sometimes there can be lots of things in life that break your concentration. That's why that one's so hard for me. Hopefully it's a little bit easier for you. All right, guys? So pause your video and take a minute to reflect on that.
All right, guys. So, did you know that Buddha is actually a title that means enlightened one? Wait, you should know that because I said that already. Okay, so some Buddhists actually believe that the Buddha is a god, but many others believe that Buddha is just a great leader and a wise leader. Now, we can kind of compare this to Christianity and how we have different denominations. Now, we interpret those beliefs in different ways. So we have Catholics, we have Baptists, we have Presbyterians. It's all based on kind of one main idea, but we interpret it in different ways. So that's the same thing for Buddhists. Some people believe that it's a god. Some people believe that he was just a wise and great leader. All right, now time for your favorite part, the hot question. So why might some members of the higher castes disagree with or feel threatened by Buddhism? Remember, the caste system was a major belief in Hinduism. All right, now think back to what I was telling you about how Buddhism even started. Think about that. Think about our Eightfold Path. Think about the Four Noble Truths. And go ahead and respond to our higher order thinking question. We love to read your responses. We love that you guys put so much time and effort into this. If you don't, we highly encourage you to do so. It gets you guys thinking on a higher level. Okay? So go ahead and take a moment to write that down, and then let's move on to Ms. Hodges.
All right, along with Hinduism and Buddhism, Jainism developed in India as well, and most of the followers of Jainism today do live in India. And it's a little like Buddhism, it's very close, but it does have a little bit of difference, so we'll talk about what that is. So in Buddhism, they believe that they're going to be free from all earthly concerns when they reach nirvana, when they stop wanting things and they stop suffering, and they can end their suffering by stopping wanting things, then they'll move up and reach nirvana. And they believe in the existence of all gods, many gods, and so they have that. But Jainism doesn't believe in a supreme being God. There are many gods, but not just one supreme being God. And their followers are known as Jains. And now both together they share Haman is you know what? Let me look and see how to pronounce that, because Ahimsa, I always say that wrong. Ahimsa. So in history, remember guys, I've told my class for sure that it's okay if you pronounce things incorrectly sometimes, because these words are very different from our language, but we need to be able to recognize it when we see it. So Ahimsa is a nonviolent sacred way of life. So they're both going to be nonviolent. They're not going to want to fight to get their way. They both are going to believe that suffering comes from within, and that we should stop wanting things and stop focusing on material possessions. And both of them have rulers that come from royal families that give up their way of life in order to try to help others, and then try to do something about the suffering that they see in the rest of the world. So although it's not as popular as Buddhism and Hinduism, it's still a religion that we should give some time to and think about for a moment. And it's Jainism, and it's a little like Buddhism, but it's not quite exactly the same. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
So if you notice, there's only 2 of us. That's because we're hijacking over the video. That doesn't make any sense. We're hijacking over? Really? All right, guys. So sometime around 500 BC, there were people in the ancient Indian civilization that were unhappy with many aspects of the Hindu religion. Now, these people wanted a more simple faith, so they decided to leave their home and actually go search for a more spiritual way of life.